In early 2019, an anonymous user posted this image to 4chan's X board in a thread asking to post disquieting images that just feel off. This is considered the originator of what would become the Backrooms. However, the image itself had been floating around for at least a year at that point. Of course, it would only really gain proper notoriety when given the caption, "If you're not careful and no clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum humbugs, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering about nearby, because it sure as hell heard you." With that short description, the internet ran wild, and we were graced with one of the greatest internet horror shows of recent memory. Hello, I'm Kana Kanalmanel Man, and join me while we look into what happened to the Backrooms. Ugh, that was a fucking dumb intro. So we all know what a creepypasta is. Its name is from the bloom of the internet, in which we combine copypasta and the word creepy to define eerie copypasta. However, as the internet developed, so did creepypasta, and what was originally a name used to refer to spooky copypastas would eventually broaden to fit most horror-related elements that could be found online. From poorly written internet stories to multimedia spanning collaborative efforts, the horrors of the internet grew and grew with every passing day. And as creepypasta grew and grew, we kept seeing more and more trends join that repertoire. That of course leads us to the Backrooms. Now, if you search for Backrooms videos on YouTube from before 2020, you'll see what you'd expect. A whole lot of meme videos, a few video essays, and a couple of gameplay videos on games that are based on the Backrooms short text. Now, a lot of these video games are the same. Escape the Backrooms while you're being chased by a monster of some description. However, there was one that caught my eye more than the others, and that would be Day 7 by Puppet Combo. I've always been a fan of Puppet Combo games, ever since I watched PewDiePie play Babysitter Bloodbath and Power Neural Massacre, however long ago that was. Something about that low poly VHS 80 slasher visuals enticed a younger me to stick through them, no matter how unsettling they may have been. However, I've never been able to play the Puppet Combo Backrooms game because it's only available on Patreon, and I'm far too lazy to set up my details there. But from the clips I've seen, it's a very different game from the ones that came before it. From my knowledge, there isn't really a creature that chases you down besides some sequences. It's just filled with walking around over and over again, laying down coins to mark your trail, and that to me really captured the horror of the Backrooms. The monotony. Walking around alone seems like a task so arduous it's bound to drive you insane, or at the very least near your breaking point. But what else is there really to do in some place like the Backrooms? I feel like a lot of what unsettled me in the first place about the original description is that there's a chance that something's out there. The main suggestion of the post is that the place goes on for a while, with next to no signs of exits anywhere. Sure, maybe there is an exit in there and you escape, but the most likely outcome is that you either die from dehydration or go insane. You see, I feel like when it comes to a lot of these Backrooms games, they kind of rush into the whole monster thing. And I know, that is scary. The idea of being trapped in a maze with something chasing you down is as old as can be, like with the Minotaur in ancient Greek mythology. But again, it feels like it's being rushed into, like, you're in here now, something's here with you, escape, when it can be so much more. I feel like there's a lot more psychological horror that can be found in the Backrooms that I've only really seen be explored in games like Day 7. But I guess there's just less of a want for slow burn psychological horrors in a market saturated with the video game equivalent of B-movie creature features. I can see why it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea though. Some may find it boring or tedious, but isn't that what the Backrooms are supposed to be all about? Not about traversing different levels until you get out, it's about trying to find an exit in a maze which looks nearly identical whichever way you turn. However, I feel like all that opportunity would then be lost when the Backrooms started getting more popular. Before you say anything, no, this is not one of those "it was better in the old days when the subject was just a niche little internet group" kind of videos. I haven't got to the conclusion yet. As the Backrooms grew in popularity, so did its lore. You see, the original Backrooms image, while being described as disquieting in the original 4chan thread, can be classified as a liminal space. For the people who don't know, a liminal space is a place which can be seen as a transitional space, somewhere where you don't spend a lot of time at but tend to walk through anyway. That's why many liminal space pictures are of things like hallways, gas stations, and empty parking garages. They're places where nobody would stop to take in the scenery or atmosphere. That's the textbook definition of liminal spaces. However, now the term is used to kind of encompass areas which feel fake and off. Liminal spaces themselves are often used in internet subgenres such as weirdcore and dreamcore. From these liminal spaces, people began making their own little posts on places, mainly Reddit, talking about new levels in the Backrooms, what you find in there and such. Maybe even a creature or two that might chase you down. At first there were a few, but with the increasing fandom that came with most internet trends, they began to pop up more and more, spreading to more platforms like TikTok and, I don't know, probably Twitter. As previously mentioned, it eventually spread to TikTok, where much of the same thing happened. The increase in popularity led to more creatures, levels, ideas, everything else. And while I can appreciate the Backrooms as being a thing that allows creativity to build, the question is, when does the creativity reach a point where it's too much creativity? If you look at the Backrooms wiki, then go to the floors and just click a random one, you'll see what I mean. I'll come back to the Backrooms wiki pretty soon, but before that, we have to tackle one more thing. Eventually, the Backrooms would attract the attention of a young man named Kane Parsons. What do you mean he's only a month younger than me? Kane had been doing visual effects and animation for a bit beforehand. These were found footage videos set in the Attack on Titan universe, which showed his potential when it came to both visual effects and animation. However, on the 7th of January, 2022, Kane uploaded a video called The Backrooms, found footage. I highly doubt that I have to explain what the video contains. You've seen it, I've seen it, we've all seen it. But for those who've forgotten, Backrooms found footage follows the cameraman for presumably a student film falling into and getting lost in the Backrooms. The video showcases many great 3D interpretations of the liminal spaces that came before it and a very unsettling atmosphere. It's genuinely a good piece of media when it comes to the Backrooms, or I suppose what the Backrooms have become up to this point. It stands on its own as a genuinely good horror short. However, I must admit, the Backrooms monster looks a bit shit. It does kind of dampen the atmosphere and remove some of the horror. Another thing which made me laugh rather than feel hopeless was the music choices. We got the Minecraft soundtrack in there, which is just a tad fucking goofy for my tastes. Sorry. But goofy or not, I can't deny the skill and craftsmanship behind it. The video attracted a lot of attention from people who are familiar with the Backrooms and those who weren't. It would lead to a lot of people creating their own Backrooms videos, some better than others. A lot of people genuinely created some great stuff, but the thing about this great stuff is that it kind of oversaturated the Backrooms. It's not that a lot of the stuff is bad, it's just that it isn't scary anymore. A good way to describe it would be exposure therapy, like how some people get over the fear of spiders by spending time with spiders. The overabundance of Backrooms content has made it less scary. Do you remember when I brought up the Backrooms wiki? Well, it explains every single minute detail about every single floor. Now, I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I enjoy how a community can become such a powerful creative outlet for people, especially those who are new to the horror genre. However, on the other, it's been done so much better before with the SCP Wiki, where its clinical wording and redacted details help with world building. The Backrooms Wiki just feels like I'm reading an overly detailed creepypasta. I don't know, originally this video was just going to be a documentation of how the Backrooms trends evolved over time, but as it's progressed it's become a critique and I don't want to end it on a sour note, so... The Backrooms have inspired so many creatives, games, videos, stories, ideas, creatures, anything and everything. Just because it isn't the same Backrooms that I and many others came to enjoy, it doesn't mean that everyone else should stop what they're doing. I'm sure for many that the Backrooms were their entry into something closer to cosmic horrors, and I think that it's worth stopping and thinking about how it's impacted people in a positive way. I mean, my first real entry into horror was fucking Roblox, which shows how far we come from where we started, so thank you Backrooms. In the future, I'm sure we'll be seeing many forms of media that have either taken inspiration from or are direct adaptations of the Backrooms. Maybe even from creatives that have just started to dip their toes into something like this. In the end, it's alright, isn't it? It could have been worse. Could have been fucking Roblox.